Picard Season 3, Episode 8. And Troi makes 7. Now that's a table read. Hey, it is Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland, just letting the dust settle a bit on the Trek headlines, so that instead of a hot take or a quick take, you get a second opinion from Dr. Trek. Hey, I have been writing, authoring, editing, interviewing, archiving, researching, witnessing, dot connecting, and yes, fanboying Star Trek for a long time now. And I just want to say, Episode 8, Surrender, and we were wondering who would be doing the surrendering. Of course you knew who'd be doing the surrendering. Not our heroes, at least not yet. By Matt Okamura. Another topper for the season. Now, I've seen folks say it felt like a letdown to them, maybe, but I don't know. It's, this one was another quiet one. Again, not another Easter egg-orama. Basically, 4 basic scene pieces, right? You've got Riker and Troi and Worf and Raffi over on the Shrike. You've got the sickbay quartet there with Jack and Beverly and Picard and Sydney. You've got the bridge hostage drama going, and then you've got the other LaForges and Data, all in engineering, seeing to him. So it was a great juxtaposing of those 4. So it felt quieter, but it was quiet so that the tension could be ratcheted up in all 4. And I thought it was a good job of stacking throughout the pace of the show. And changeling challenge questions. It's like the old, what's the 4th verse of the Star Spangled Banner? There is no 4th verse. The challenge questions for the Nazis wearing American uniforms in World War II. The bit with everybody confronting each other once again, and it comes down to a wine delivery a few years back in Le Bar between Geordi and Picard. That's funny. Raffi, of course, just blows it off, and somehow they've barely known each other, but, well, for a few weeks anyway, Raffi just blows it off, and Worf trusts her when they have their little re-encounter moment. Oh, you all know I'm not a music guy, but when it's there, it's there. It's in your face. It's in your ears. I have to talk about it. And look, kudos to you, Steve Barton, this episode's composer. The scene, well, it's the last scene before the teaser, the old school teaser. It's the bridge hostage scene. And oh my God, it's an homage. Well, you know what it is? It's the pounding percussion. It's the dramatic horns. It sounds like something right out of the hostage scene of the crew and officers from Space Seed. It's some good old 60s symphonic drama. I mean, I went back to every one of you will go in there. Took me right back to Space Seed, among other hostage situations. And I know that had to be designed. The brass, the percussion, pounding away. And then just as a moment, what about the end of Vadic? I mean, was that the best villain demise you've ever seen since, I don't know, the end of Ruafo that was planned to de-age him through the metaphasic rings until he de-aged into a fetus and below? But it was never shown. It was deleted and revamped. If that had been done and done well, that would have been cool. I mean, you know what they say, Rudolph fans? Bumbles bounce. And apparently, changelings shatter. That was awesome. Vadic was what? Hoisted and shattered on her own petard or portal weapon emitter. But I do have some questions. That cloak shuttle, it was the shuttle Emerson. What was that attached to? Did they fly all the way there from Exoport, where they were last time we heard from Worf and Raffi? I don't know. I wondered about that shuttle. Where did it come from? At first, I thought it was the La Serena until we found that it was the shuttle Emerson. Is that for Ralph Waldo? What's the context? Inquiring minds want to know. And wow, Raffi is such a badass with her blade combat. But those are changeling minions that she's fighting, right? She seems to down them with a blade thrust. I mean, does that mean they really are changeling minions? I thought they had to. Well, Worf comes along and cleans up everybody he does away with a disruptor blast, with a dematerialized blast. He even comes back later on and cleans up some of the floor trash. But nothing ever happens to the ones that she stabs. I'm just curious. Is there something else to these changelings? Is there something we haven't yet heard from? Supposedly they were just as changeling as Vatic was. Are they out of her converted minions of changelings from the 10 that were teased and tortured the way she was? Is there still something we don't know about the minions? I don't know. But boy, not to take away anything from Raffi's blade play. I don't care what Coach Worf says. R.I.P. Long live Lieutenant Tavir. What a sad ending to one of the most iconic characters. We had this bridge crew. This bridge crew has been used so well. And the torture scene, the madness of Vatic in picking out the power and control she wanted to display. Oh, she did a good job. And maybe there's a way to resurrect Devine. It didn't look like it at the time. Who knows? There are always possibilities, as a famous Vulcan once said. But in all of that, we learned that Mira is a Bajoran. Was he born since, say, 2370? I say this because traditional Bajorans, their last name was their first name, right? Commander Kira Nerys, Ensign Ro Lauren, or Commander Ro, even Ensign Cito Jaxa. But no, he was Matthew Arliss Mura, which seem very Terran Earth names. Maybe there's a wing of Bajoran culture now that follows, for lack of a better word, the anglicized linear naming, where the familial name is the last name. That's interesting. Maybe that's just come about since there's been such a Bajoran mix and contact with the regular Federation. He looks like he could have been born since the end of Bajoran occupation. What is that, 2370-ish, 6970-ish? He would be 31. That seems plausible. Is anyone talking about this? And I have to say, it is cool that we found out about this bridge evacuation hatch. I mean, it evacuates air as well as anything bodily inside it, right? I mean, there's finally a reason to have a force field only clear forward viewer, right? I mean, I thought that we were getting all those ceiling dome shots because that is where they were about to evacuate the bridge, out the top. But no, we have clear folding force fields. Now, I'm not even going to think about how many redundant force field and hollow emitters we have to protect that forward wall of the bridge. It's very vulnerable, as we've always talked about, having your bridge on deck 1 at the top. And now to be having that populated by simply a force field, even if it's the strongest force field on the whole ship. And yeah, I know, hangar bay doors are force fields, usually backed up by solid. Maybe that's an instant ejecting hull that we didn't see as the force field opened. But hey, I'm not complaining. If it happens, there must be reasons, right? Texture, not trivia. But hey, with 4 major set pieces going on in this episode, it's got to be about the character work. And can I just say, that has got to be easily the best Riker Troi scene since, the blended bar scene in First Contact? Except this is so much meatier. This is not being played for laughs, but oh my gosh, their context back and forth is amazing. Waited till now to have Troi, to have Deanna in full force, and boy, is Troi woven all through this episode. She is making up for only getting her entrance for reals in episode 8. I mean, the lines here, the Triker apparently is the way we talk about Changeling Riker. As Changeling characters, you put a CH on it. Have you seen that? That's cute. But apparently the Triker that visited her back on Nepenthe, good in bed, bad at pizza. But at the same time, we knew when Will says it was the bleakness that I felt, and he trails off. We know it has to be the death of Tad. And to hear her talk about that Triker, it was viscerally creepy, wasn't it? It was amazing to hear Troi talk about how she couldn't read changelings, but then she's never had a changeling plot. She was stuck on TNG in their movies, not DS9. No one else has had to deal with changelings until now, until the crew at DS9. So it's a perfectly valid point. But the creepy Triker, let's remember this entire season, these 10 episodes are playing out over basically 7 days, if we can take Picard's early word that he was talking at Frontier Day in a week. We've been counting down through 7 days. So what? She was visited by the creepy Triker 3-4 days ago when Riker was taken hostage. They've been bopping around. It's all just happened so recently. Think about that. But I have to say, new Betty Zed or not, it really struck me the way Will called Deanna honey, just simply honey. Has Imzadi really taken a vacation? He just called her honey. Now, I have seen fandom erupt in small measure. People are loving these episodes, but what some of the discussion I've seen is a whole debate about the discussion about Nepenthe. Now, look, season 1, the bright spot for me and many of you was the Nepenthe episode. For one thing, it's the only episode I could remember the episode title from because it made sense. And we were all so melty over finally seeing a reunion of sorts, right? Besides the Data Enigma part of the plot. And to see Riker and Troi in that episode, and oh my gosh, Lulu Wilson playing Kestra, and to get so much backstory about the Rikers since, it was a heartbreaking episode. But now, to see Riker and Troi debating and kind of exploring their feelings in this moment of impending trauma, maybe they're facing their death here, and to come clean and honest about neither one of them really wants to be on Nepenthe anymore, that it was the move to help Thad, but now all they are grieving parents stuck in that rut, and they don't even realize it. The happy pizza baker may not be such the pizza baker. That was an interesting scene for sure, but I've seen fans talk about, was that a meta critique of that episode, that situation, that whole envisioning of where they were in season 1 before this season 3 plotting? Maybe. I've also since seen people push back, and this is what I'm going to think, that it was just two people, again, facing their potential end, who were realizing that it was time to move on, that they had done, perhaps with good intentions, perhaps it was therapeutic at the time, but they lost a son there and should have moved on anyway, and they're still there. And we heard about Riker's depression causing a rift between them. We've been figuring it out as this season has gone on, that there wasn't really a headbang. It was more of a drift and an emptiness and a deadness between them. And it was awesome to see the commander and the counselor figure themselves out in real time. And yes, Deanna actually does do a little bit of a counselor heal thyself moment there. It was just so honest and just so organic. And it was a beautiful thing to behold. And you know what? I've been hearing people talk about member berries this and nostalgia that. I'm sorry. Will and Deanna, Jonathan and Marina never got a scene like that to play. Even the blended bar scene in First Contact, even their marriage and all of that, and they never had anything this tough and meaty to play that was so honest and so vulnerable and so revealing. So you can take your member berries and your nostalgia porn away. This is where these characters are now. It was honest and it was raw and it hit you in the gut like so much more of this season with these characters. It's just where they are in 30 years. Just because you knew them 30 years ago, you're prejudiced against telling any more of their stories. That's bass-ackwards. No, it's a very honest. It is not fan service to see where they are these days. And that scene, Marina's real first scene in this episode, in the season, was astounding to watch. And yes, searingly honest. And coming back around to funny at the end. Okay, now we got to talk about Mr. D. We have to talk about Data. Now, admit it, the minute Sydney started talking about asynchronous compositions and 90 trillion computations per second, you knew where we were going. That sounded so soon, positronic data, computational speed-ish. You knew we were going to Data, right? And ethical subroutines? It was like the golden days. You knew that's where we were going. Ethical subroutines. And that internal lore Data battle was a wonderful thing for Brent to play in prior episodes. But you knew we weren't going to get out of here. without a classic lore data split screen with the photo doubling, right, for the head back and forth. Well, how awesome was it to see one of those once again? And then we get a data, I got this little plan. I mean, just when things look the bleakest, Data's got it right. I mean, it's all about the how, not the whether. Now, look, you can say this is some member berries here, but it's weaponized member berries. 4 symbols of Data's memory, of his memories. 4 props, right? Now, the cards he talks about, although I want to know, where's his dealer visor? And Spot, we get a mention. But what's interesting to me is Tasha just appears with no explanation, as do the Sherlock Holmes props. The way he's handing things over to lore might give you a little bit of a clue what's happening here, but you have no real way of knowing where he's going with this. You're just, half of you admit it, was just wrapped up in seeing what they were going to pull out of the air next. What was going to be a Data thing that became part of the scene, right? But no, the Sherlock stuff and the hollow Tasha little decanter, those had no explanation. And I'm just sitting here wondering, okay, you veteran viewers, you guys, you knew exactly what was going on and you were kind of wetting your pants over it. I'm just wondering what the new viewers were left thinking. And what do new viewers, what do new Trek people watching Picard for the first time, what do they do when they sense that something's going by? It's so important here. It's popped out as a prop, but nothing is said. So it's obviously significant. It's hard to miss. Do they immediately, run to an Easter egg article? The latest thing on the web? Do they run to Memory Alpha? Do they ignore it? I mean, do they just let it ride? I mean, this is the kind of thing I love to sample among the newbies. I love to talk about folks who have no prior experience, knowledge, or baggage and see what they think about any of these modern Treks. And this Picard that everybody else loves, I would really love to see through their eyes. But how do you find these folks? How do you find that Venn diagram circle? The newbies who are just coming to Picard without any foreknowledge from TNG? I would love to find that group to sample them. But all of these Data memories, these props, these member berries are weaponized. In fact, hell, they're a literal Trojan horse virus, if you will. I mean, it's as simple as that simple sleep command that Locutus and Data worked out that silenced, the Borg cube from Wolf 359 over Earth way back in Best of Both Worlds Part 2. It was that simple, and it works. And can I just say a shout out here? Those were perfect pixelations. Shout out to the visual effects team. Hey, you wanted TNG Star Trek in 2022? Well, there it sits. That was an awesome depiction. The way it wasn't white. It wasn't the white infinity. That blue sky bit, blue skies, smiling at me, enveloping me. It was nice. And the way they just pulled pixelations in and out of the air. And of course, Lore's final fade out. Or is it? That table scene? Well, the table scene overall, but how about the end? Where we had the mini Bechtel scene between Bev and Deanna across the table holding hands. I mean, we've come a long way since the infamous, infinitely cosplayed workout tight scene, right? Between the two of them. That was such a sweet, honest moment between our 2 female leads. But I got to start wrapping it up with Vadic. And yes, another F-bomb moment. Now look, I've seen it be kind of strangely quiet this week. Look, we had the infamous double F-bomb way back in Discovery, right? Choose your pain. And then, of course, Dear Admiral Clancy in the early Picard season 1, right? About sheer hubris, effing all. You would think the Enterprise was painted pink for the uproar those all caused. It's modern, it's streaming, but this is Star Trek, they're heroes. Has there been much flap about Vadix? I mean, is it okay because she's not Starfleet? She's just a dirty villain and she gets to cuss up a storm and it's okay? Because I would say that of all of these occasions in modern Trek, hers was the most organic. That is exactly, at the moment of doom, what Vadic would say, don't you think? I mean, how else is a monologuing protoplasm going to make her big exit? I mean, bravo, Amanda Plummer, once again. But before I go to the table one last time, can we just back up and give Data a moment? The moment when Data and Geordi are leaving his reintegration. I think we just saw Data have his Spock original movies moment. Spock's evolution from the motion picture and his tear scene, this simple feeling, all the way through to his reintegration after his Katra being reinstalled. The Spock 1, 2, 3, and 4 movie Spock. Geordi asks Data how he feels. And the first time after that long pause, I want Data to say, I feel fine. Nod to Spock. For a moment, a nanosecond, I want him to say, I feel young. Nod to Kirk. But no, Data has his own answer. He feels that he feels. Okay, but I gotta say this. Of this entire episode, the thing that had me rolling on the floor laughing, Data has just been integrated. And what does Picard say to him? Data, we need your help. The ship is in danger. I mean, word for word, gang. You know, it's like almost like the climax of this entire season. All of these chapter episodes has to lead up. Talk about the classic line. You've got your McCoys, you got your Scotty lines, you got your fascinatings, you got your I'm a doctor. But somebody needs to look at Data in every episode and say, Data, we need your help. The ship is in danger. That's the next gen meme line. Most of all, and I've already talked about Marina and Troi making a big splash in here to make up for lost time this season. Episode 8, she's finally having her huge scenes and her big impact. And of everything that's happened, the amazing scene with Riker, her interactions throughout that, the escape and the sit downs, she gets a scene that I didn't expect we'd get crammed into this episode. This episode that, oh my God, has so much crammed into it. I'm still amazed. I'm looking at the ticker going, wait, there's more? There's more. And in this case, the there's more is Deanna actually gets to do some counseling. Now, it's crisis counseling. It's weird shit Betazoid counseling. I wonder what our counseling friends would say about it. But she actually gets to do, and you know, a la maybe Dark Page, it's a touchy-feely, we're going to go as empathic as we can with a human, if that is indeed what you are, Jack Crusher. And she actually goes there in the best Dark Page tradition, accompanying him to the red door and that doorknob. And of course, that's our cliffhanger for the episode. And it reminds us, we've gone through all this other plot, and we're still at the end of episode 8 wondering about the red door and about the face. Vadic is gone. The face is still out there. And what is the Frontier Day plot? Frontier Day, which is still agonizingly just hours away. But I guess that's as good as any. To call a halt, get ready for next week, and sign off on this second opinion. But hey, what did you think? Please comment below. And, you know, like and subscribe. Hit that like button. Boost the signal. I dare you to subscribe for some sane Star Trek commentary, okay? Most of all, if you are craving a little more Dr. Trek and my whole Trekland point of view, I invite you. Check out all of our podcasts and live streams and experiences. You know, the Trek Files from Roddenberry. Tuesdays, Trekland Live every Tuesday afternoon at 1 Pacific. And yes, our Trekland Treks day tour experiences. And of course, Portal 47 every month, the mini-con all year long. Hey, it's all there, including our TeePublic shop at LarryNemecek.com. Trek well, everybody.